there's nothing I'd rather do than introduce you that way. You know what I mean? I was there. But things are different these days, you know what I'm saying? It's not the way it used to be. I mean, we're just a little channel, you know what I mean? But YouTube, they got these lawyers, you know what I mean? They come crawling out of the woodwork. They're serious business. These guys are knee breakers, you know? Like I said, you know, last thing I want to do is go and piss off the Walt. Good evening, and welcome to Having a Drink with Mink. I'm your host, Jason Mink, and tonight, You've read enough comics, you know what ... means. Tonight I'm joined by the one, the only, he's the big red cheese, ladies and gentlemen, that's right, Captain Marvel. I'm not afraid to say it, and nor should you be, because it's the truth. When I was a kid, the good captain was a favorite of mine. This is the Migos representation of Captain Marvel from 1974. I spent a lot of time with this action figure. Well, not this one. This is a figure that I picked up this past weekend at the Great Lakes Comic Con, but I had one very much like it as a young person. I would spend idyllic summer afternoons running through the fields, holding the figure up. Oh, hold on. Let's get him in his flight posture. Holding the figure up against the sky, running through the field, having a very cinematic experience. Absolutely. That's for sure. I was a huge fan of the character. That's undoubtable. And if you want to dispute my bona fides, well, I got his RV as well. Okay, this isn't an exact match of the RV, but, you know, it's close enough. I mean, if he's going to go gadding about the countryside, you know, this'll do. This'll do for now. And, God, that thing is heavy. 1970s toys made of steel, folks. Even though Mego never got around to making a mentor figure to mentor our hero, the good captain, they have made a moral equivalent. We'll use the yin-yang Fonzie. I think that the two of these guys can have some fantastic adventures out there in the world, and gosh, I hope to see that soon. But enough of my farting around, as my mom would say. We're going to get right to it. I went to the Great Lakes Comic Con this weekend, and I got a lot of fantastic comic books. That's what this issue is all about. We're going to call this one the Hall of Justice, ladies and gentlemen, because that's truly what it is right off the bat. We got Yeet number 34. Yeet Presents is the official comic of the Old Guys Who Like Old Comics Network. Produced by Mike Jones. Every month, this black and white anthology brings you the best of creators, both professional and up-and-coming. This particular issue has artwork by Joe Wong. It has stories by William Mesner-Loebs. And it also has the most recent Storm Owl number 3, and that's by myself and Eric Luna Salazar. And hey, by all means, you don't want to miss that, folks. You don't want to miss that. But we were down there. We were shilling for Yeet. We were giving out these comics, and people seemed to really appreciate them. But I made it a point to spend a little bit of leisure time as well, because a fella has to have something to enjoy. I went and I got myself some comics, and so here we go. Right off the bat, you know I'm a beater-reader guy. Well, here we go with 50 centers. I found Lois Lane, and this one has the title cut off. This was clearly sent back, this title, to receive some credit from the newsstand agent for the publisher. But, you know, what can you say? The whole comic book is here, and it would appear that Lois is up to her usual shenanigans. When will she ever learn? Hopefully never. Another 50-cent book is this cool black and white. This is a failed universe. This is a take on Marvel's new universe from 1986. I paged through this thing, and it made me laugh out loud a couple times just standing there at the bin. So I figured for 50 cents, by all means, I'm going to grab it. Going to bring it on home. We got the Fear book. This is Steve Bissett and Rick Venich's Fear book, and excited to tuck into that for sure because I loves me some horror and looks pretty visceral. Looks potent. And then we found some Marvel reprints. That's right, 50 cents a piece. We got some Kirby action. Can't go wrong. Then we have this super cool Frank Bruner. And I haven't really talked into this, but I flipped through it, and it looks pretty exciting. Can't wait to check into that. I've been building my Champions run for cheap because I figured, hey, why not read these one day? So I picked up a copy of 3. I might have it, but for 50 cents, sometimes you just got to cover your ass. We have Alan Moore and Eddie Campbell's Snakes and Ladders, and this is apparently a very cool book that people are fond of. I've heard folk talk of it, and I had to pick it up by all means. Certainly interested, and for 50 cents, can't go wrong. Also, speaking of not being able to go wrong, The Outer Limits, and this one features a dinosaur cover interacting with a time machine. What can you say? What can you say, folks? Can't wait to talk into that. Now, I'm a big fan of the Archies, as well and my kid's a big fan of the Archies as well. So, I found a big old pile of those. This Betty and Me, which I hope to review for a future breakfast because, wow, there's a lot to unpack in this one. Picked up a cool cover list. This was like a quarter, but by all means, it's 1971, so it's sure to be entertaining. Let's see here. This one has been marked down to 5 cents rather dramatically, you'll note. And, ooh, ow. We'll fold this over. Press it real hard. Hopefully it'll stick. We got some little pep action. And then here's a book that Mike Jones of Yeet Presents fame was nice enough to hook me up with. It's The Swingin' with Scooter, and we are actually going to check this one out at breakfast this weekend, so be sure and tune in for that. It is a wild book. You'll learn just how much of Dave Riordan is Sweet Pain. We're going to break that down for you, It's information that you can use. Now, I was lucky enough last weekend to get to go and speak to Michael T. Gilbert of Mr. Monster fame, and Mike Jones was nice enough to hook me up with this. This is issue number 7 of the Dark Horse series. I've been putting this one together. I read it. I enjoyed it, but I'd like to have an extra set of copies, maybe to give to a friend. Maybe I'll make a friend who likes monsters. Maybe that's you. What else do we have? Oh, hey, and this was one hell of a score, actually. I picked up Warlock, number 2, 3, and 4. Oh, wait, and number 6. And these were 45 cents for all 4 of these. Yeah, they're coverless, but holy cow, man. You got your John Buscema artwork, you got your Roy Thomas plotting and editing, these are seminal books. And can't wait to check those out. Speaking of the Archies, found some Betty and Veronica, some summer fun, because summer fun can oftentimes be the best fun. Betty and Veronica Spectacular, spacking it up. And I got this specifically for my kid because there are times, when I'll give a book to my kid and, she'll check it out and kind of on the crusty side, maybe a little odoramic. And she'll be like, Dad, really? I'm like, hey, the stories are still awesome, but, she'd like to have some new comics. Well, here are some new old comics in the form of this fantastic Archie 3-pack, which is all sealed up, and she'll have the opportunity to crack this bad boy open and be the first one to bond with these comics in the symbiotic fashion that we're all very familiar with. All right, what else? I found some magazines as well. Now, these magazines were from Lauren Becker a member of the Old Guys Who Like Old Comics group, and I picked these up. I got a real deal on these. Here's Atlas Comics Thrilling Adventure Stories #1. This is a great book. I think I have it in front of the microphone, but that'll do a little better for you, for sure. We'll look at this one on a breakfast because it's dynamite. I can't say enough about it, but I got to put it down because we got a big pile to get through. We got Rampaging Hulk #1. I made it a point to start collecting these a while back, and to be able to find #1 for $3. What a deal, as Count Floyd would say. Then I also found the super awesome Spirit Jam book. Now, this has a whole number of creators in here, featuring Will Eisner, and then you have your Terry Austin, your John Byrne, your Milton Caniff, all your favorites, Richard Corbin, doing the Spirit? Come on. And Michael T. Gilbert has some stuff in there as well, and pretty interesting to check that on out. This was Robert Kroll, and he's a creator and a member of the group, and a damn fine fellow as well. I made it a point to stop by his booth last weekend at the Great Lakes Con. I picked this up. This is illustrated by group member Charles Butler. So hello, Charles. Hello, Robert. Shout out to you, gentlemen. The Lady Wore Chainmail. Can't wait to crack this one open. Speaking of Michael Gilbert, it's a blast! And this looks phenomenal. It's a magazine from 1991. And when I was flipping through it, initially I was excited at the prospect of getting more Mr. Monster. But then it turns out that it has a Torpedo, 1936. And this was a super cool story that I remember from back in the day. I had this in another anthology book. And to be able to get a couple of these stories in this glorious color, happy to do it. Happy to do it, folks. All right, let's chuck through these books. Let's keep things going. Found some dollar Daredevils. Daredevil and the Black Widow. That's my thing. I've been trying to build this run. I've been trying to build it on the cheap, and I'm doing pretty good here. Found some nice books. And hey, a nice Spidey guest starring appearance. It's always cool. Speaking of Spidey, we got some king-size Spidey. That looks pretty sweet. It's an epic 64 pages. Don't you ever miss it, folks. Then I picked up a couple giant-sized werewolves. We've got 4 and 5. And these comics are always a trip. As a kid, I expected them to be a bit more gothic, but when I read them today, it's we got a lot of sci-fi, fantasy elements, and just some weird off-the-wall stuff. Someone was, taking the brown acid, that's for sure, when they were writing those. I picked up a couple more. Betty and Veronica. We got Summer Fun, number 147, and Summer Fun number 28. There they go. And then these are some dollar books. We got some Laugh, Archie and Me. Here's a truly freaky little dot cover. Man, that sack of plutonium that she carries with her, probably not so good for her mental health. Now, if you're familiar with our previous Comics for Breakfast, where Yogi Bear went to the UN, well, gosh, I had to follow that up. Yogi Bear goes to college. I don't know if this is before or after, but can't wait to check this one out. God knows. And then we've got Dobie Gillis. And he seems to be doing pretty well for himself. This isn't in the best of condition, as you may note, but you know what? It was, I don't know, it was like $1, and I just wanted to read it. That's my thing. I love to read those comics. And, this one is, the cover isn't in the best of shape. I'd like to find a nicer copy of this one, but it is truly hilarious. Superman, my sister Lucy, her parachute won't open, and I can't possibly get there in time. What can I do? Now, I think that we all know that Superman can get there in time if he really wanted to. I'm not sure what Lucy did, But, that's pretty cold. That's pretty cold. I think that's from the era of what folks call super dickery. Now we're into a pile of books that Tom Wojciechowski was nice enough to hook me up with over the weekend. Tom Wojciechowski is a comics professional. He's lettered a number of books over the years. He may be best known for lettering Chris Claremont's X-Men. He currently holds the record for lettering the most comic books in the form of Image Comics Spawn. I believe that they're ticking over 301 issues as we speak. So congratulations, Tom. Congratulations, Todd. And thank you for the comic books. We got some fantastic Crypt of Shadows here. This gentleman is playing a little bit of poker. He's playing with Death, a Wolfman, and a Dracula. And chances are he's going to end up with a losing hand, when you play against those fellas. That's for sure. Then, some more Crypt of Shadows. Step into the Crypt of Shadows with me. Weird Wonder Tales. Excellent, excellent. Love that. Visceral, potent. Hits you where you live, as Stan would say. And this one right here, man alive, I read this while I was at the con, and I was blown away. It's just, first of all, right off the bat, it was the 70s. We were all shark crazy, so who could resist this particular book? And the interiors, they're dynamite. We're going to be talking about this book as well this weekend on Comics for Breakfast. So I'll put it down. We'll save that for later. Another book that Tom was nice enough to hook me up with, Secret Origins #1. And this one's a beaut, folks. It's in great condition and features the first appearances of Supergirl, Green Lantern, and the Atom. And I read through this, and absolute DC goodness for sure. It was a real joy and a pleasure. Moving on, we have Marvel Collector's Items Classics #1. Now, you know me. I love me those reprints, and you can find a lot of these collector's items books for cheap, but the #1s are usually most elusive in the wild, so to be able to use this, it's a touchstone. It'll allow me to build more of these fantastic collector's items classics, or whatever the book morphed into after the fact, because gosh knows, probably didn't keep that name for long. And I should know this because I did a video on it, but you know how it is. Then we have #3, #7, and then this beautiful #12 featuring Dr. Doom. Say what you will about the guy, he loves his work. And some more Tomb of Darkness. And then you enter the worlds unknown once you're done with the Tomb of Darkness. And that one's cool. It's an adaptation of The Day the Earth Stood Still. Oh, where's Ringo? And wrapping the Tom Wojciechowski lot up, we have this fantastic Rocky Lane Western. I'm very excited to look into this one. It is from the company that brought you Atomic Mouse, The Badge of Justice, Six Gun Heroes, and Sweethearts of Tex Ritter. Oh, no, Sweethearts and Tex Ritter. Two separate books. But, hey, who wouldn't read Sweethearts of Tex Ritter? I know I'd be in like Flynn with a great big grin. All right. Well, I can tell that my batteries are critical. So I got to wrap things up. Set these books aside. Oh, don't worry. They're okay down there. And then I found a guy who was selling these. These were $2 a piece. Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos. We have #34. #38. Oh, look at that. Will you look at that? What a beautiful cover. And then #49. And then #50. And check that out, that beautiful Dick Ayers and John Severin cover. That's some cool stuff right there. I was thrilled to add those to the collection. I'm not a big war comics guy, but I'm certainly happy to have them. I am a big martial law guy. I love the martial, and I was super happy to pick these books up. Paid $1 a piece for them. They definitely fill some holes in the collection. What else do we have here? We have Fantastic Four, and this is number 70, and it's some Kirby goodness, that's for sure. And what is this? What could this be? I paid $1 for this. Can you believe it? Well, there's more to it than that. It turns out this is just a cover. A guy had sent in a copy of Silver Surfer number 5 to be graded, and when they sent it back to him, it turned out that the book had a double cover. They peeled this one off, graded the book with the one cover, sent this one back with a note saying that, it didn't belong with that book. So they mutilated this book, but this was $1. And I figure if I can find a coverless copy of Silver Surfer number 5 for a couple bucks, I could marry these two and have a lovely, lovely copy. So seems like an off-the-wall purchase, but there's method to my madness. That's for certain. And we're going to wrap things up because, gosh knows, you've been patient. We've got some Archies. These are nice books. Pretty excited to add these to the collection. And the gentleman's name is, oh gosh, it escapes me now, but he posts in the group all of the time. And I'm going to put it right down here. Because it's not that I forgot, it's just that it slipped my mind. And last but certainly not least, when I was a young person, I had some interesting friends, and my interesting friends had some interesting parents, and these interesting parents had some interesting items in their house. One of those items was a copy of Harold Head number 2. It's the anus-clenching adventures of Harold Head number 2, with this beautiful artwork by Rand. I can't say enough about this book. When I was a young person, I thrilled to the adventures of Harold and his friends, and I was actually going to take a look at it, but my copy seems to have had a bad reaction with the staples, and it's disintegrated all up and down the spine. I have no idea what occurred with this book in the few years that I hadn't looked at it, but it was in really bad shape. I found this for $5. I'm thrilled to have it, add it to the collection, and be able to maybe lend it to a couple folks to appreciate the artwork in this book, appreciate the history of Harold Head. Well, I'd like to thank you for joining me. It's been a whole thing, hasn't it? Yes, it has. Wow, will you look at that? I've barely touched this thing. I'd like to thank you for joining me. My name is Jason Mink. I hope to see you this Sunday for Comics for Breakfast. And if not, hey, I'll see you on Facebook, or perhaps I'll see you at the comic book shop. I'll be that guy wearing this shirt. Boom Shanka!